puffed up and ready to talk about Destiny 2. That's what we do here, gamers. Hello. Welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. We're back here to talk all things Destiny 2, and it's definitely been an interesting week that just passed that we're going to talk about. I am Mike Burgess, your host as always, and then I'm here with Auri O'Neill. Hello, Auri. Hi.
Nothing but good vibes, everyone.
Nothing but good vibes until we talk about this weird state of the game blog that we just got this past week. That's definitely been all the talk and the buzz of the Destiny community. It's definitely a lot of interesting information. Some good, some maybe not so good. Just sometimes how it goes. We'll get into all of that. But before we do that, I do want to recap some stuff, because if you didn't see, I made like a text post on our channel on Helm to Tower telling you we did have an episode planned for this past week, but it was lost to the video God's the Worst. So I just wanted to recap everything that was going to be talked about on that episode real quick, and most of it is like known now because it's been a while. But we talked about the currency changes, about them upgrading a lot of the currency changes. Not letting us hold more in our inventory, and then but removing the ability to hold in the postmaster. It really not being that big of a deal. Please, it's not really something to get upset about. It's fine. Everything will be fine. We talked about that a little bit. We both did the exotic quest since that point. We talked a little bit about that in that episode, and it was end of the day, it's fun. It was cool for what it is. Being a mission that's kind of tied into this weird activity, or one of the season activities, and kind of being mashed with that. Interesting nonetheless. That was kind of like the main things we talked about in that. Just wanted to do a really quick recap, because that unfortunately
we did talk about Destiny last week.
The lost episode of Helm to Tower is forever gone, but
I feel like that's like a badge of honor. You can't have a podcast without a few lost episodes.
It's true. We would be at, I think this would have been the 20th episode of the podcast already.
Oh, wow.
I think if we had not lost episodes, I think this is technically still episode 19. But ultimately you'll
put that hour and a half into that podcast, all right? Just because you didn't listen to it.
Exactly. But yeah, since then that week happened, another week happened, and then we got this large state of the game blog post from Joe Blackburn, who kind of mostly put it together, but he also said they're kind of hard at work on final shape stuff. They're kind of like in the midst of that, so they kind of grabbed a bunch of other people to kind of update on various facets of the game. That's kind of all the talk there is going on in the world of Destiny 2. And yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about there. And I do want to get into it, but I do want to just bring up, at least because I think there's a lot of sentiment around this article, mostly being negative, and a lot of people in the Destiny community with it, and I think some of it is pretty valid. It's very hard to parse a lot of those feelings and vibes from a lot of folks, because they all come from different facets of what they enjoy about Destiny, because Destiny is a very broad game and how it appeals to different play styles of games and people how they play games and stuff. So it's it's always hard to parse the excitement levels, and then there's also admittedly a lot of stuff. At least I personally feel like there was a lot of they just kind of repeated a lot of stuff we had already heard prior. It was just kind of hey, we talked about this in depth maybe a month or two ago, and now we're kind of just back to this, and we're still doing that, and it's okay, cool, yeah, sure, it's just kind of a nod and agree. It didn't really evoke any emotion out of me, because it's kind of stuff we already knew that was in the process of them doing, you know what I mean?
This to me, it felt like a check-in pre-showcase, just to be here's all the stuff that you're not happy about, and the fact it's not changing.
Yeah, so they can, and they can get this stuff out of the way, so they can have, so the expectations can sort of be better set for what the showcase will have in it, because like those showcases, right, are always more so like, be excited for this new big expansion to the game, the future of this game, and like here's also like, you know, the new season with all the new content, and also like, you know, it is ostensibly a marketing push for the game. Like they want to like, you know, show this to like, you know, it is obviously for like the Destiny community, and of course a lot of the hard people that are really into Destiny are going to show up, but this is also potentially for people who are maybe not so into Destiny to be like, hey, what's going on with this? Like, what's going on with Destiny? Let me tune in and see that. So it has kind of a slightly bigger appeal to like more people to check out this moment for Destiny and see it as like an opportunity to come back in, or people who are like, you know, not like super tuned into Destiny all the time and maybe just show up for expansions, or, you know, show up every so often for Destiny because they're not in it. So it has like a bigger appeal. So like these things in here definitely covered a little bit more granular things in the like more like, you know, day-to-day, season to weekly kind of cadence of Destiny. Like a lot of the qualms come more with that stuff at that level, and that's kind of more what they talk about here. So still a lot of interesting stuff. And stuff that
you know, there's some good stuff in here.
There's some good stuff, and definitely some questionable and kind of rough reality checking stuff. Yes. I think for a lot of folks in the community. So I'm just gonna kind of not start from the very top, because a lot of the initial top is just like, hey, yeah, we had a thing in the start of the year. It's kind of just like a little bit of preamble kind of setup. So I'm going to jump right down to the kind of the big meat, and I think definitely the most parts of this that are controversial in some regards is the kind of ritual updates they kind of give across the board about the game. That the ritual stuff being, you know, Crucible, Gambit, and Strikes and Vanguard Ops, and that kind of ritual playlist stuff. So to start off. Let's see here. We have with the ritual updates. We've heard plenty of feedback from players that our core ritual playlist should feel more consistently rewarding to play, and that those rewards should drop more frequently, regardless of the activities you like to play. I definitely agree, and they also agree with that. Let's talk about what we've done so far and what we're doing to achieve in Season 22 to achieve this. So let's see, they basically just go over in Season 22, they changed kind of the weekly ritual stuff is what they briefly talk about here. And then with to get exotic,
you don't have to play Gambit, Crucible, and Strikes. You will be able to play effectively 9 of whatever playlist that you like.
Yeah, and get the exotic rewards. Because basically, and with Season of the Deep, they gave us exotic rewards, and now they're making it so you can essentially more directly choose between doing Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit. If you just want to play Crucible matches and get all those rewards, now you can do it that way, or just play all Strikes and get that way. Like I'm totally cool with that change. Like especially, and another thing they talk about, which, you know, I might as well just call out here, is like when a season where having once again where there's not going to be a power upgrade at all.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely, even with that alone, I played a lot less of the things I don't really play a lot of, which are Crucible and Gambit this season. Or let's just say like base Crucible and Gambit I played a lot less of this season because of that. So I definitely like missed out on some exotics. Granted, I have tons of exotics, so it's like it's not a big deal, and that's ultimately why I did it. Where now it's like, okay, now I know I could just like play a bunch of Strikes or whatever, and then do like maybe a couple Crucible matches that I can just like bang these out super easy than ever before. So yeah, cool, totally fine change. Of course, we talked about it last. I think we talked about it in that last episode, but they shouted out a bunch of the new weapons coming to the playlist as drops. They will also be immediately able to be grabbed with the engrams. So now also more engrams from each playlist. So like Crucible engrams, you'll get more at the end of a match potentially now, starting in the next season. And you'll also be able to use them now to focus at Shaxx or like, you know, at Zavala or whatever. And you'll be able to use those engrams immediately to get the new weapons that come with each season, rather than having to wait a full season for them to be focusable now. So that also was something they covered in one of the previous blogs that we covered in the last episode that we lost. So those things totally fine, right? They're just hey, some nice quality things, like some easier access to like the newer stuff in the new season, more easier ways that you personally can choose how to like get these various rewards. Cool, yeah, great stuff.
It's definitely like, and I'm sure it affects things we'll talk about later. It's definitely like a weird thing of, it is like a big deal kind of change that you don't realize it's like been this way for forever.
Yeah,
since
right.
Destiny 1. And now it's like, all right, well, you no longer have to play Crucible ever if you don't want to.
Yeah.
At least for those like core things, and assuming, I guess, that power leveling comes back at some point, right? Like this.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think they talk about that very briefly and very vaguely and later in this article about like there being significant changes to some kind of like power or leveling system with Final Shape now. They said that they said that apparently that was going to be sooner, but they just had now, as of this blog, of now pushing that to Final Shape. So here's the next part. This is when we get really more into like Crucible changes and PvP stuff. This definitely was like kind of the first thing that drew a lot of ire, although admittedly it's stuff they've said for many years.
This is like the most straightforward. I feel like they've said it.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Like say they basically go on to say like, hey, here's all the stuff we've done over the past couple of seasons with PvP stuff, where they added the competitive. They did the competitive division, multiple new game modes, revamp of trials, and also more trials and competitive rewards. Also the like fire team matchmaking playlists and more like weapon tuning that's specific for PvP. So they kind of just outlined a bunch of stuff they have been doing over the recent seasons, which definitely is like a lot more than I think they get credit for in some regards. Although I understand like a lot of the ire from people who would like more, and like they kind of feel like they're not getting what they actually want in terms of changes. But here's where they kind of outright say like why those aren't happening. And I'll just read this stuff verbatim here. The most frequent feedback we see is that there is just not enough new PvP content, specifically new maps. To set expectations, our studio structure is built to support more overarching updates to PvP like these ones above, rather than focusing exclusively on maps. When we do focus our resources on building new Crucible maps, it comes with the trade-off of multiple teams' bandwidth on work that contributes to a variety of experiences that players also hold dear, such as new story or exotic mission content, core activities that make up the foundation of each season or new destination. Similarly, bringing back reprised maps also involves extensive porting to the latest version of Destiny 2, which requires additional resources to ensure the maps working correctly for multiple game modes and playstyles for years to come. So yeah, basically they kind of outright said like, look, we don't have we are not structured in a way to easily pump out new original maps, and even just doing the work to port maps back from vaulted maps or D1 Destiny 1 maps into Destiny 2 is a lot of work, and the people doing that work will ultimately take away from, like, let's say, work that could be done on an exotic mission or seasonal story content, or content that you spend money on.
The
underlying thread there. And that's just the reality of it. They just kind of laid it out straight, like, hey, if it's not that we don't necessarily want to do this stuff, and we hear that you want this stuff, but as it stands, and how we make money and pay the developers of this video game we create, and how we make money to fund that and also fund our other projects, this is just how it's got to be right now. Not that it could, again, there's multiple factors in that, right? Because you're saying, it is definitely, a lot of business talking there. That's like the underlying thread there, right? But I think there is the other part of like, this doesn't necessarily still mean they can't change that structure in the future, depending on like how things go or how things shape out. We know there is probably a lot of potential for this game to more drastically change post this saga that's going to be ending with the final shape. I think we're still up for there being a lot of shifts in how things are presented to us and doled out over seasons starting, post final shape. And I think that's still going to be a long wait for sure for probably a lot of folks, especially folks who have been kind of holding out for so long and like have been on this ride, and this is supposed to be kind of a culmination, a final moment. And I think there is a lot of people who feel like that is enough for them to be like, I want to stay for this, but like if you're not really going beyond that to like service me in maybe the ways I would want with this game, I'm kind of good jumping off here. And I feel like there's also that vibe of people who are just like, I think they're just ready to be off the ride, so to speak, and like they're just kind of frustrated by like these aspects of these games that like never got met, I guess, or something. I don't know fully, but I'm just kind of rambling here, conjecturing, because just people were definitely
very
upset when I feel like this has been something that's just kind of been known for a long while. Like I get there, like they like the time when Destiny was getting a significant more amount of PvP stuff was when they had a giant companies backing way more than they did. So many years went by when they didn't have that, and then they're not getting that, and now they do have a bigger companies back. But I think that's also because they are making multiple projects now, because we know they have Marathon, and I think they have something else as well that they have not fully talked about. But I believe there's something else in the works that they're also working on there. But Marathon is without. I know there's like a lot of weird, there's a lot of weird harping on Marathon because it seems like it is the thing taking PvP away from Destiny or whatever, and like there's realities where that's probably true in some ways, just because of you saw with that reveal. You can go look at that Marathon reveal and see all like the Bungie devs that are in there, and those were like staples of Destiny for years. Like you go back and watch the freaking Forsaken blog or not blog, but like Vidoc, and all those people are in there. Like the people were like, I created like freaking Gambit for Destiny 2 and like designed it, are like the same people that are now like in that Marathon. Vidoc being like, Marathon baby, let's go PvP. Look at all these dedicated servers, woohoo! Like they have moved on to a new project and are like doing a new thing, and like that's totally. And I personally am totally cool with that. Like they've probably been working on Destiny for even longer than that. Like I think a lot of the people were even in Destiny 1 when Destiny 1 was still going, and then they obviously started working on Destiny way even before that. So, so they've been working on that for, decades of their lives. I'd be fine with them being like, yeah, I want to go do a new thing. And also like, Destiny was never really a core, like PvP in Destiny was like a big facet of it, but it's always still been kind of the side piece to it. Like that's just the reality of it. And like now they get to kind of do the opposite with Marathon and like kind of focus it on PvP and these other aspects, and maybe incorporate things that got really popular because of Destiny, and like maybe incorporate that more into a PvP space. And I think that's maybe their goal with that game for sure.
Yeah. There are two things that come to me when I read this, and the more I've thought about it. The first is like, how did we get here? They say they've built this structure, right? And like you said, that could change. I just like, this should have been, it should be something that they built like a team that can do this.
Yeah.
And I am someone who plays a lot of PvP and enjoys it. But boy, howdy, every time I get on like the same 6 maps, it is just the worst. Even if they did a thing where like, okay, here are the 10 maps for this season, and they just like take some out of the rotation. They kind of like non-formally do that.
Yeah.
But just like having that kind of feeling of shifting, so you're not seeing the exact same things that I have been since Beyond Light. It's unbelievable. Like it should have been at some point when they were structuring into like falling into this system of seasons somewhere along the line before and after Beyond Light, which is when we kind of hit this stride, that there should have been a group of people that were like doing stuff. And the other kind of thought I have on it, outside of like how did we get here, is that feeling that all of this content is going to be gone in 12 months, and some of it's only in the game for 3 months. And that's gotten better, right? Like the shift to having Battlegrounds being in the Strikes playlist is very new. And obviously some people hate that, I think just out of bitterness at this point, like a lot of things with Destiny.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like whatever. I get it to some extent, but there is definitely like a feeling of like, okay, you know, all these teams were working on these missions and these exotic missions that were like disappearing, and a single map would at least stay there forever, you know?
Yeah.
Like that feeling I totally empathize with. And I think it's valid, and I think that they've never really addressed that, and always kind of shirk content vaulting under the table of conversation and never really talk about it and how it is like really depressing. And you know, like imagine if we got a Callus's Leviathan map in Crucible instead of that destination that nobody liked in Season of the Haunted, right? At the very least, people I think would still have that around and would enjoy it. Hopefully, you know, God knows, it could be Disjunction 2.0. And that's like the other thing of like they make a new map and then everybody hates it, and they're making another new map and like that potential is still very real.
Yeah, they hate it, and they took all this resources away from something people could have really liked. Yeah, it's like and there's always that gamble for sure. But I do definitely agree with you of like it definitely is wild. It was definitely some wild takeaways to hear that like they are structured in a way that they just don't have a dedicated team for this, even if it was like a small team, like that's like they couldn't have just made like a, not even like, you know, I totally understand not having like maybe like a full on team that's like here's strike only team, gambit only team, PvP team. Like I don't think that's like would have been the right approach necessarily either. But even just having like here's a group that's like they like think of stuff for PvP and Gambit, maybe just have like the PvP and Gambit team, and they just kind of like, you know, maybe flip flop around of like, oh, here's some new stuff for PvP for this season, and then maybe in a season or two again we'll have some more stuff like a new map, or like, you know, reprising some of those maps a little bit quicker, or like, you know, having some new modes or some other kind of thing introduced. You know, that was very just like what there's not like. Like, you know, and that's been
there's
clear.
Nobody there to do that.
There's nobody there to do that, or they haven't like changed or like maybe like moved some people around to do that. But like, you know, that feels like it's pretty clear that like that was just never done, and like that might have been like it's been like that probably for years now.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's it's just kind of surprise, like always surprising to just like think about that and be like, yeah, they just never have done that, and it's. Who's like making those decisions to like not make that happen? I guess it's just because it really does come down to like the reality of business, baby. Got to make the money, and they don't sell anything really for PvP, make direct sales, because that is also a personal thing I think is weird. Is like there's not direct. There's not like things like there's not like a 1-to-1 of like things being sold, but like there are people who like buy expansions so they can play trials. And play those game modes, because you do need to buy the expansions each year to like be able to continue to play trials and keep up with that, because you can't play it on a free account. You can play other PvP stuff and get some of the rewards from that. You can get the cruddy armor set, which we'll get to that later, that we're going to have for another year plus. Mm-hmm. You know, but they also get like they basically get one new weapon a season now. And like the weapons you can get from like, you know, the vendor things, and they get that competitive weapon every other season. So you basically get like three weapons a year, four, like maybe like 4 or 5 now. I guess you get
6 weapons a year, I guess.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, if you're a free to play player, and you've not bought any of the expansions yet, and you just are trying to play Crucible, like that's like all you're kind of getting. You're getting some other random like free weapons, I guess, from like world drops or whatever, but like that's kind of it. And like it's
Yeah.
just like it's very little stuff, and but there's still people who like spend the money on things like expansions or maybe even cosmetics that probably really predominantly play PvP, and I don't think they should just be kind of left out to dry as much as they are. Even as a known like PvP somewhat hater, I still kind of like empathize with like, man, they just kind of don't get nothing, and I feel like they keep getting kind of beat down in a way. That's kind of rough. But I think that's just a reality of like PvP was always, even earlier in Destiny when there was a lot more PvP stuff going on in the game, it was always still seen as like it is the side mode to like the main stuff you're doing in Destiny, which is PvE, the story content, the seasonal content now, the expansions, the raids, the dungeons, the in-game content. Like it's always been kind of side to that.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, like when Destiny started, I think the reason that was so strong is like of the publishers to have support studios for PvP maps specifically, Activision has all of them. Literally all of them.
Yeah.
They have 4 studios that are dedicated to working on maps for Warzone alone, and that's now. Think about 2017 Forsaken era or 2017 Destiny 2 era, and then the 3 years before that for Destiny 1, like they had the powerhouse publisher backing them for this. So of course it came out of the gate really strong, and when you lose that, like it's a big loss. Like they had Ravensoft, I think, was making.
I know Vicarious Visions was
Vicarious Visions was
one
the
of
other
them.
one. Yeah. Like those are very good studios that make very good video games, but B also function very well as support studios to the big 3 Call of Duty
they're
studios.
They're definitely just as integral, like making some of that early Destiny 2 content for sure.
Yeah, like the 10 maps that we got with Taken King wouldn't have happened without those studios. So like just them being gone certainly makes you feel that loss more, but it also is like, okay, well, we should have done something to compensate for this at some point, and I guess all of that went into compensating for seasons and making Destiny one of the most unique live service games out there. But it is weird when it all comes back around to like, and all of that is gone.
all that's kind of gone, and like any of the people who I think would have been trying to like maybe driving forces into like trying to bring that stuff back into Destiny in a bigger way, I think have gone and are now making their own like PvP focused central game in Marathon, right? So like I think that's also like definitely a facet of like, I think there are definitely probably people on Destiny 2 that still really care about PvP, but the reality is there's probably not as many of them who work on like a lot of the bigger aspects of Destiny with raids and PvE and seasonal content and expansions and stuff, where like PvP people are probably just a smaller amount of people, and they're probably like spread around other teams and help make smaller kind of updates that we'll get into, like new modes or like weapon tuning and like exotic tuning and stuff. Like that's probably where those people are now. Like and they can't really. Those people,
nothing they can do to change the whole structure.
And like they're also just like tuning that stuff. They are not like environment artists who can help create a map, which is like a major thing that people are doing. That where like the other people, the environment artists, are people who are like helping making the raids and dungeons, and this again the stuff they sell and make money off of, and they don't want to like necessarily pull those people off of that for extended periods of time to like hold that stuff up. But anyway, that was a long talk about that. We are getting a new PvP map again. To be fair, like you said, next season.
That's cool too.
It is a Dreaming City map, or not Dreaming City. Gosh, a Vex Network map called Multiplex, and they kind of said it is like kind of the Vex Network environment, kind of taking over Mars or like a section of Mars. They said they kind of tried to like have those two kind of styles mixed in to kind of sort of complement each other in a way, I think is kind of what they were saying in this blog. From that, they had to just have one screenshot in here, and it does look cool. Definitely a big pit. I'm definitely going to see a lot of warlocks trying to make a jump and maybe just kind of float into
That'll be
there.
me. Yep, straight
But
down.
but yeah, still cool, interesting there. Definitely, definitely a big question of like this. It's an asymmetrical map. It's definitely curious. Yeah, if people will end up liking it or not. That was definitely a thing where we finally got that new PvP map last year for Junction, the witch, like kind of the Witch Queen Throne World, and like no one likes that map at all. So that's
I like that map.
How it goes. Yeah, I've definitely like I can see why people dislike it for like very specific modes, but I definitely see like largely though when it's just like I'm just playing Control or like some whatever ridiculous whatever FU Destiny mode that I usually play. It doesn't really bother me at all.
Great for Team Scorched.
But yeah. Outside of that, we're getting a new game mode and a new modifier, which essentially is kind of also a new game mode. They both could be more so in the Crucible labs this season, so they're kind of going to be testing them out and seeing what people think of them and how people react to them before they put them like fully in the game. So here we have Checkmate, which is a modifier where rich primary weapon fights can happen more often, and gun skill can be augmented by communication and strong positioning. Primary weapon damage has been tuned to feel different than the rest of the game without being jarring, reducing the gap between the faster killing weapons and the average time to kill, and in general pushing longer range primaries into slower killing profiles. Player health has been increased, all ability cooldowns are lengthened, and the special ammunition must be earned via gameplay and is not dropped on death. This all results in slightly longer combat encounters that reward skill and consistency. Checkmate will be available in Crucible Labs from week 5 to week 10. We will start off with 2 weeks of Checkmate Control, then switch it up to 2 weeks of Checkmate Survival, and finally 2 weeks of Checkmate Rumble to finish off its trial run in Season 22. So basically, yeah, it's like everyone is a little bit harder to kill, and it seems like it's more focused on, using kind of more, it's more gun, it seems like they're going for a more gunplay focused thing here that is like a modifier on top of, some of the Destiny stuff.
Sounds like special ammo crates are going to come back from D1 with this as well.
Okay, got it.
That's like when it says like you don't spawn with special ammo and you don't drop it.
Yeah, it says earned via gameplay. So yeah, maybe instead of it just being like a box drops on a kill, you have to get like a certain amount of kills, and that'll like give you the ammo too. Maybe that's how it goes. I guess we'll just have to see. It could just be crates too, for sure, like you said. So curious. Yeah, like this sounds interesting. Cool. This sounds alright to me, and like I said, it's more so a modifier, not a specific game mode. So it just means like, like I said, like each week will be different. It'll be layered on top of an already existing game mode. So it seems there may be more positioning as like, hey, if people like this style, this could just become more of what PvP just feels like, period, in general in Destiny. Like I think maybe that's what they're trying to test out, what that feels like for folks, if they like that kind of more gunplay focused thing. So definitely interesting. I'll have to see what people think about that. Next is the new mode, and this is more of like they call it a party mode. It's called Relic. It's a 6v6 party mode where players wreak havoc and destruction on their foes with relic weapons. Relics include the Aegis from Vault of Glass, the Synaptic Spear from Season of the Risen, and the Scythe from Season of the Haunted. Each player charges their personal relic energy by defeating opponents with their normal loadout. Upon reaching full charge, players can acquire a relic from a relic depot. Defeating relic holders and using the relics to defeat opponents earn points for the team. Whereas Checkmate is heavily focused on gunfights, Relic is intended to provide lighthearted gameplay that can be enjoyed by anyone, similar to Mayhem and Team Scorched. Relic will be available in Crucible Labs from week 1 to week 4, and again in week 11 until the close of the season. We look forward to hearing your feedback on both Checkmate and Relic when they roll out next season. As somebody who like prefers the more Mayhem and momentum control kind of modifiers in PvP like that, this actually sounds pretty fun too. I kind of am into the idea of just like get
the old relics coming back at the same time.
Yeah, get a get a super weapon and just go ham in this arena with it and just run around smashing fools. Like, why not? It's fun, and it incorporates like more of the stuff that's like PvE stuff that like Destiny is known for in a fun way, which is always cool.
This is also the first time I've ever known or heard what the relic from Vault of Glass was called. The Aegis.
The Aegis.
The Aegis shield. That's cool. I note that they did not give a name to the little dark beam from Vow and stuff, so it is and forever will be known as the Nut.
Yeah, it's the Nut. It's the Dark Nut. The Dark Nut.
The Dark Nut. From The Legend of Zelda.
So yeah, both those kind of sound cool. So hey, we're not, over. I
not
get
all bad.
Again, it's not all bad. I get overall, like, it's like people who are like, they've waited this long to get just kind of this, and then, but also at the same time are being told, yeah, this is all you're going to get for a while. Continues because like they're also, they didn't kind of really say like, I think it's a thing where like they are going to keep giving it. I think they are going to keep reprising maps. And probably have another new map maybe next year potentially, but they didn't really just say it here. So I know a lot of people saw that and were just
said it.
A lot of people didn't say that. So now people are just like, well, are you done with maps now? What? Because you're saying it. They're hard to make or take away from them making other things. And it's like, I think they'll keep making stuff for next year. They just didn't say that. So
yeah, I hope that at Final Shape Showcase they'll have something more substantial to say, right? Like that's like my only saving grace for this whole part.
I think that's definitely a thing to just call out in general, right? Of like overall for this thing, like this is like definitely a lot of this is like a piece of it, and it definitely feels like they like kind of talk around some things in this, probably because they have stuff to talk about in a big showcase in a few weeks to like talk about like, we don't really learn anything about, we learn about like quality of life stuff. We'll get to that in this blog later for next season, but obviously we don't know the main stuff for the next season. We know
or for the expansion
at all. So like, I'm sure there will be other things that they will talk about and like stuff beyond like, in previous expansions, they also talk about stuff that comes post even that expansion a lot of times, and like what they have plans for the year of that. So this is I definitely think there will be discussions about things coming to Destiny 2 beyond Final Shape even. And that could be them just being like, yeah, we're going to keep doing PvP maps and other strikes, and maybe even more Vanguard stuff or whatever, it's definitely a high possibility of that stuff there. So they basically wrap up. They talked about some matchmaking improvements. I feel like that's always a thing, right?
Yeah, that ship sailed. I really feel.
Yeah, that's just what it is, and
people are going to be upset about.
Yeah, no matter what, I kind of think no matter what they say, right? No matter what they say, people are just going to be like, oh, whatever.
They're not dropping skill-based matchmaking, so people are upset about it.
Right. So one last thing though they did touch on for. Looking forward to season 23. So that's the season like after this one that's about to start, and the one right before Final Shape. They're going to be adding a brand new hockey aggressive strand pulse rifle to competitive division. That'll be the new competitive weapon that season. There'll be a new Iron Banner game mode as well, and then also they are bringing back the Dreaming City map. That was in base Destiny 2 that got vaulted. That was called the Citadel.
I love that map too.
Yeah, that map was all right from what I remembered.
It's a great symmetrical map.
Yeah.
Where you got like the two kind of like pagoda like buildings that lead into like a curved center. It's cool.
Yeah, I remember there was like a big you're definitely fighting a lot in these weird like hallways and stuff.
Gorgeous map.
So yeah, that's all right. That's cool. Again, I get people. It's not all the stuff,
all the bad stuff,
all the stuff, all the stuff. Yeah, all the stuff they didn't want to hear. So yeah, there's more stuff to talk about. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of get on with it. So next they go into Vanguard strikes and Crucible or Vanguard stuff. I might have spicier feelings on some of this than maybe you will about some
I
of the
have
Vanguard
some
stuff.
spicy feelings
Okay,
about it.
okay,
So.
good. Okay, good. That's good to hear. Because I definitely have some thoughts about all the stuff they say about Vanguard stuff. Namely, when they first say the Vanguard playlists are currently in a solid place with a healthy population, and we have more additions coming up. First up,
Yeah,
Vanguard medals. This is not in a healthy place. I don't think it's in a solid place.
I don't think it's a healthy place at all.
I don't think
it's like
so
what
at all.
you and I have been talking about for like the last 2 episodes specifically. Is like, boy, I don't want to run strikes anymore.
Yeah. That I definitely read that was just like did like a little double take. I was like, wait, what? It's in a healthy place, a healthy population. I mean, that's because it's like there's the thing you make us run every week, so of course it's going to have a lot of people in it. But
Certainly how it feels right now.
But yeah, anyway, we're getting the medals, I guess. They're going to be a full-time thing now. They're not going to be just allotted to Guardian games. So now Vanguard medals will be in the playlist.
I do like that, but you know.
Yeah, that's
not a problem solver.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, okay, sure. I'll see medals pop up a bunch, and it'll be cool for a while, but probably by
easier
like
to get higher scores, which means more rep, which is fun.
Yes, it's gonna be a thing that like you see it for like the first couple weeks and you get the triumphs and you're like, cool. By week 5, I'll never think about the name, what these medals do or care about what they do ever again. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's where they'll be, and that's totally fine. That's just what it is. It's like a thing that I'll like quickly not think about at all in the grand scope of the thing I'm doing as I play the same striker battleground for like the 16th time. So let's see. That's largely what that is.
Yeah, there's no finisher medals. That's really like the only other thing.
Yeah,
that's what makes Guardian games not fun to play with certain people.
Yes, and that won't be a normal thing. It'll just, I guess, stick to that. But there's one other thing they say. We also recently focused more of our team's resources into varied, frequent seasonal activities, such as battlegrounds that can later make their way into the Vanguard playlist alongside our strikes, and eventually serve as new additions to Nightfall and Grandmaster playlist.
This can come at the cost of other content in a given year.
I was just kind of thinking that in my head. So does that mean we're getting more battlegrounds in a future season?
That's what it feels like to me. That's how it.
That's kind of what it reads like. I don't know if they're referring just to like they did Defiance Battlegrounds a few seasons ago, and now they're. But this reads more like they're doing that.
It reads both as we're going to get more seasons with Battlegrounds, and those Battlegrounds will continue to make their way into Nightfall playlist activities.
Yeah. While this can come at the cost of other content in a given year, we feel this exchange has been worth the extra investment over health of our playlists. As a result, we'll have additional battlegrounds coming to Nightfall Grandmaster rotations in Season 22 and 23 to keep those things on their toes before the final stream launches. So here's where I feel this, because the thing doesn't bother me. Like the metal stuff, yeah, again, that's fine. I don't like this over confident or reach or idea of having battlegrounds sort of take over this playlist like they starting to feel like they are. It totally makes sense from the perspective of like I get they make a lot of content, and ultimately that content definitely does not live for a period of time, and you can still kind of feel that in some of the battlegrounds they've already put into this game, where they feel like they are still just kind of seasonal content that had a shelf life, but then like now they're kind of pushing them as like these strikes, or like the things that were a little bit more designed to be like replayable for much longer periods of time. And I think one of my issues is like how now that we've gotten so many battlegrounds, and now they're all in the playlist, and the inevitability of like the Defiance Battlegrounds are probably also going to be in this playlist at some point.
They might already be. I think.
I don't think they are yet. Okay. But I think I guess
while they're still selling the season, they can do that.
Yeah. And I think they will be at some point for sure.
Yes.
And presumably going off of this, there will be more battlegrounds. Probably not this next season, because I want to say they said next season is like a whole new kind of a seasonal activity that they've never done before. I want to say they talk about that later in this.
They do talk about that later, yeah.
So maybe season 23 is more battlegrounds.
Or maybe we're reading into it too much.
Yeah, maybe I'm just misreading this, and it's just they're just talking about battlegrounds as a whole, just being a thing, and they're going to have more of those be like Nightfalls and Grandmasters in these coming seasons. Those being the battlegrounds stuff, like I kind of, or Nightfalls and stuff, like I'm like fine with that. I know some people definitely are not enjoying them as much as those because they like feel like they're not designed for like that kind of level of difficulty because with like how enemies spawn and how other stuff like that. I admittedly have not had as much trouble with those as I thought I would. Granted, I've not done the moon one from this season yet. But more so, what I'm feeling is, again, like I don't necessarily want them to take over the thing, is because a lot of them, are kind of samey. And what I mean by that is, like, you look at the 3 heist battlegrounds that came from Season of the Seraph, and they're generally all pretty cool, and they do start off in different environments, but the boss rooms are exactly the same. You kind of do a lot of the same kind of style of defend points and things like that. They're all very similarly structured in how they go. The same with like the Chosen battlegrounds. The same with the Psyops battlegrounds. Like they all kind of follow a very similar, suit, and then funnel you into like the boss room that is essentially the same. So, well, more I guess maybe let's say the Chosen ones now that they were previously, but they all like also all take place on Nessus, so they're all still kind of like samey. And now we have the Defiance battlegrounds, which are going to make them, and those are also kind of like set up exactly kind of the same kind of. They feel just very samey, and I get like you're always going to have a mix of them, so you're not going to be doing all of them at it. You're not going to be doing like 3. I don't think I've ever had a scenario where I'm done like 3 heist battlegrounds in a row in that playlist, right, or whatever.
I have.
Oh God, that's. I was hoping they maybe.
I've done the Nessus battleground, like the one where you come up and then it's like the 4 like mountainside and you just have to kill enemies there. I've done that 3 times in a row once, and I turned off my PlayStation. And that's a playlist problem. Like that's like whatever algorithm is churning those out and matchmaking and stuff.
Yeah, how they matchmake you up with other people. But I think it's more just like they're gonna if they have battlegrounds that have these very similar layouts and these very similar like moment to moment gameplay, and now the playlist is going to become predominantly those. Right now we're going to have heist battlegrounds, which all 3 of them are ostensibly the same style of mission. Psyops battlegrounds, all 3 of those have the same style, and then Defiance battlegrounds, all 3 of them have the same kind of gameplay mechanics and like boss encounter style encounter arenas. Like all of them have like very similar thing. Like that just is going to make that playlist feel more and more samey because you're just kind of like all of it's like blurring together more than it ever has. Because at least like yes, I totally realize the idea of like there's been strikes that are in that playlist that have been in that for the entirety of the lifespan of Destiny 2.
D1.
And even some of them have existed since D1, and I sit here and tell you with 100%, like I'd still rather just go play those over and over again than have this idea of like I'm just constantly doing the same battlegrounds that have the same layouts, then play the same way over and over again. Also, so like that just muddies that playlist more and more, and I hope I don't mind them. I think what I'd be fine with is if they just don't do all of them. Maybe they just pick one,
the best one,
the best one, or like the one that maybe the one the community likes the most. Like make it like a fun vote. They like to do that shit. Like they make hey, vote for this thing or whatever in their game. Come on, let us just pick the battleground we like, and that's the one that stays in the game instead of just keeping all of them and bloating up that playlist in a way that just makes it not really fun to engage with, or less and less fun to engage with, because either I'm doing a strike I've done for years and years and years, or now I'm doing a battleground that feels like exactly the same like 4 other battlegrounds over and over again. So that's kind of where my frustration is with reading that stuff.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So good to hear. That's my kind of sentiment on the Vanguard playlist, and was definitely a little bit like, man, hearing them say like, yeah, it's in a good spot. It's like, oh,
I remember reading that.
come on.
You want to know it's also in a good spot?
Gambit. All right, let's proceed to the what should be deemed
the
as
cemetery.
Yeah, the cemetery, are like, let's take Gambit out back behind the shed section of the article, because good lord,
I felt like, as someone who likes Gambit relatively more than most people, I come down to the Gambit part of this, I see the Dreaming City map, I'm like, what is happening? And to be fair, imagine, Mike, if the map that they were bringing back was the Tangled Shore map, and how much worse this would be if it's like, yeah, the map that you've all wanted. And it's the worst,
and it's back.
Of anything.
And it's back, and it's back in like a year from now.
Yeah, right. It's like,
it's not even like soon.
It's like, yeah, this will be out at some point in the final shape. And it's like,
anyway.
All right, well, that's great. Also, you don't have to play Gambit anymore, and we're adding Lucent Hive and Shadow Legion.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, and they were like, the thing, we tried changing some stuff up with Gambit more than a year ago when the Witch Queen first launched, and you guys didn't like that, and we just kind of didn't do anything ever again. And now we're just choosing not to continue to not do anything ever again, because I guess people don't really play it, even though us not doing anything is also probably contributing to no one wanting to play it. So
Gambit has never gotten a new map. Ever.
Yes, ever. It's never got. It's only lost maps.
It's only lost 2 maps, and then the other 4 have just been there. I guess at some point they added the Mars map to Gambit.
I think they did add that in one of the seasons after Forsaken.
Drifter or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So, and that is the worst map for sure. Right?
Yeah,
of the 4, that's absolutely the worst.
Definitely one of the weaker ones. That one, and then other than that, yeah, we'll get the Dreaming City map some point after the final shape. In the year of final shape is what they said. They're also going to be adding Shadow Legion and Lucent Hive enemies as
Which
well.
Is cool, but like,
sure,
whatever.
Yeah,
too little, too late.
It's definitely too little, too late. And yeah, like they said, they're basically removing. Again, because of the now ability to do whatever activity you want to get the pinnacle or like weekly rewards or whatever. You don't
the seasonal challenges.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to do seasonal challenges either. So they're
reducing. I'm sure there'll still probably be a couple, but
yes. So basically, you do not have to do. So they literally say, if you want to stick to Vanguard or Crucible challenges without touching Gambit, now you can. Like, they literally just say, like, you can essentially ignore Gambit in this video game. Yeah, wow, that's like, it's always something we like. I feel like there was joked and memed,
right?
And memed on to an extent. Like, even I like did it in a joking manner as like somebody who's like thought Gambit was fine when we first came to Destiny 2, and then like never really cared for it. Beyond that, it seems like maybe that sentiment was felt way stronger. And I also feel just the idea of like, if there's like a small fraction of people who care about PvP in the Destiny 2 development team and like can barely scrounge together what they're doing for PvP, man, there must be like literally 0 people who were like, come on, yeah, Gambit.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it feels like just no one is there to just like try and champion it. And then like when they did do this, I guess when they tried to do like this little push and see what interest there was in Gambit, like there was not enough there. And it really does feel like they're like now it feels legitimately to say like, I would not be surprised if we, I guess we're getting some stuff in the year final shape, but like,
this game mode will not be in the game for 2 years.
Yeah. That's what it I feel like at this point they should just cut the losses and just not even bother bringing this stuff back, and just put that somewhere else if they're just not going to make this a meaningful game mode to care about in the next year, because like they're not adding anything virtually to it till then, and telling people they can just ignore it.
Yeah, Gambit like feels like it's on the sunset chopping block. That's what it feels like right now. And that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's definitely something else.
It's a thing where like the cycle of Destiny in a lot of ways is like this thing goes neglected, and then people stop playing it because it hasn't been given that TLC that it needs, and then Bungie sees that the engagement is down, so they continue to neglect it.
Yeah,
and
they can't, and they don't sell anything for related to Gambit in the same way they with PvP, even more so. So they can't put like a monetary thing behind it to say like, yeah, get back into Gambit, y'all. We're gonna infuse a bunch of stuff into Gambit because they like don't, because it's technically it's all free to play, so like that's all it is. It's just
yeah,
it's not gonna do anything with it. At that point, I'm just like cut your losses, man, and like put that, if like instead of whoever's working to like bring that stuff back, go bring back another PvP map instead. At this point, like if you're just not gonna do that stuff, like it really just feels like that now. It's like that's how they're gonna go about it, especially like they're just not gonna care about it because people, like, they're not gonna care about it because they're saying people don't care about it because they're not doing anything to make people care about it. Like, then just stop doing stuff for it, man, and just do something else.
Yeah. And it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, I just wish that things were different. That's all. Like that like, again, structurally we had built up a system where we could get a new Gambit map every 2 seasons or something. Or new Gambit modes. Like, I liked the Gambit labs that they did in the Year of the Witch Queen. I thought those were actually really fun. Especially like the one where you're the invader and you just have to stay alive because as long as you're invading, you're draining modes. As opposed to like, I'm here to kill all of you with my Gallahorn. It's I'm here to hide in a corner and see if people can find me. It added a different dynamic, stuff like that. I liked that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they tried stuff. I'm sad. At this point, I'm going to become a dedicated Gambit streamer. So that way... kill a Gambit.
You can now. I was gonna say you're gonna ride it. You're gonna ride the ship. You're gonna ride the ship down. It's more
I'm gonna die trying. God damn it.
Oh God, that's good.
I see you're trying to save Gambit, sister.
Yeah, you're trying to get in there. Ugh. Drifter's trying to. Actually, Drifter doesn't really care anymore either.
Drifter's like part of the story now, so he's like, oh,
yeah,
I don't need that anymore.
I don't need that shit anymore. Yeah, they finally put me in the story. Let's go. But yeah, Gambit is what it is.
I'm gonna play the shit out of that Dreaming City map once it's back, though.
Yeah. But yeah, that's happening. Next up, another fun,
more salt for the wounds.
More salt for the wounds. Armor set rewards. A long time ago, we shared a plan to address concerns on reward balance. Players have pointed out that we didn't release a new armor set for the ritual playlist, Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit, with Lightfall, as previously called out in our early yearly release schedule. Delivering ritual armor sets at the rates we have in the past has become increasingly challenging, especially considering these sets have historically had very low adoption by players as both base armor and cosmetic ornaments. At this time, we are amending our delivery plans for how often we refresh these sets, and will no longer be creating a new set for every expansion. However, we are prioritizing the delivery of a new ritual armor set alongside the final shape to infuse some new looks you'll be able to show off from your time in the Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit playlists. We also have a new set for Trials of Osiris releasing in just a few short weeks. Here's a preview of the Titan armor coming in season 22, and then there's a picture here of this bear look, or it's like a bear. Yeah, bear. It's like I think it's like a bear set. That's at least kind of what the helmet looks like, at least the fur.
Looks cool.
Yeah, it's cool looking Titan set for sure. But yeah, that was like this
was one that too. I was reading it the first time. I was like, this does not feel good to hear.
And it feels pretty bad when it's like you culminate with that again with like the Gambit thing of like, well, we only make this set once a year, and it's literally just the same set with decals of the playlists just slapped on them like big ass stickers, so they aren't really that appealing to begin with. So of course people aren't going to be super into them. So if we aren't going to be super into, like, if people aren't we're not going to be super into them. So we're just not going to bother anymore. and only make one a year. But also then we're gonna now proceed to make even more expensive ornaments that we're gonna put in our store for $20 for every character every season for the past year.
Sometimes 2 full sets,
Sometimes 2 full sets, and there will probably
3
be
with the event too.
And also the event sets that they do every year, on top of seasonal ornaments and things like that they have. They're able to guarantee doing those because, you spend that money on them, brother. This will be technically a free one, and they just can't do 1 free set a year. Come on, man.
It feels bad.
It feels,
doesn't make sense.
that really, really sucks. That's just come on, man.
And we brought up this idea probably 6 months ago of the playlist sets should get higher stats every time you reset your rank. So that way, if you're just some person that plays free to play or whatever, you play a bunch of Crucible, you reset 3 times. Oh, now they're all dropping with 63. It's okay, these are useful armor sets. Instead, they always drop in 40s and 50s. Of course, no one would use
garbage.
them.
Yeah.
They don't look unique or interesting. I think the style of the set is fine, but then like you said, it's just here's the orange set, here's the green set, and here's the red set, and that's really it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can't just put out one. Why can't these sets be if you do Vanguard on Warlock, it's there's the Arc set, and if you do it on Titan, there's the Solar set, or Crucible, there's the Solar set, stuff like that. These sets that they are fully happy charging you money for can't somehow trickle down into the playlists at all.
Yep.
That just doesn't feel good, and that would solve some of your reward issues of the playlist sets are
100%
to chase
100%.
Even if it's just for cosmetics, and then maybe you could get a higher stat one if you level up your rank a bunch.
Yes,
it feels like a low effort.
Yes, it feels low effort and just kind of not really lame because it seems very much monetarily business minded. Of just this stuff is technically free, so we can't put a lot of effort into it. So we didn't put a lot of effort into it, and now people don't care about it because we put no effort into it. So we're just gonna not put any more effort into it because we made this problem for ourselves. But also here's this $20 PlayStation crossover set. Please give us money.
$20 per character.
Per character.
So expensive.
Emote, not even just sets emotes and all kinds of other stuff that also comes with that. Finishers, all kinds of cosmetic stuff that has never been more expensive, and you're telling me you can't just make an armor set one set per character free a year for an entire year, man. That was really frustrating to hear.
This made me actually frustrated when I was reading this.
Yes,
the first time.
I agree. I 100% agree.
This was the thing
that frustrated me, and because again, all the points you brought up, it would solve reward issues. It would solve people being interested in playing more varieties of I would go back into Gambit and play Gambit if I could go get a new armor set for those characters. I would go play base Crucible to do that. I do that when this stupid Trials set, when it comes out next season, I'll probably play Trials so I can go get that set because it's a actual new armor set to get in the game rather than go buy in the freaking Ever store, which I already do. I do still go buy those because I like those sets and they're cool. But it's the only way sometimes to get new armor to look and get new sets in the game. It's why can't they just man? Yeah, it's
and the sets that
it's so frustrating that they just
sets that they give you as a paid subscribe to Destiny customer are good. Yeah. And it's clear, obviously more workers in them because they're monetized. But, it's just one set. It's technically 6 sets, right? Male and female for each class every year.
Right.
And, they're doing that for every dungeon twice a year. They're doing that for every raid twice a year. I just feel like more...
They're doing it for all those sets you mentioned, too, for the season stuff. So it is a lot. For sure.
But more good faith would be built if you you promise that you'd do this, just do it.
Yeah. It's like it seems like it's like I get it probably is more than we realize, but like it's like
I'm sure.
but like come on, it's literally just a single set for like the course of an entire year.
It's that thing that I mentioned earlier of like, how did we get here? How
Yeah.
did structurally this is so difficult to do that you can't do this, that you promised that you could? I just don't know. It doesn't sit well. It makes me feel bad about buying all these very nice
Yeah.
Eververse sets.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel bad about that. I want to support Destiny and look cool and pretty and fun.
Yeah.
But like this, reading this makes me feel bad about that. You know?
Yeah, bad about like the money I spent on this game. Absolutely.
Yes.
Agreed. But yeah, that's where we are with the armor set rewards. Definitely
most of the bad
disappointing.
news out of the way at this.
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that's definitely definitely the stuff that like I feel like most upset about for sure.
Yes.
Because the next sections we won't really. I kind of just call them out briefly, but like these are more things that like they've already talked about a bunch and are now just kind of like saying like here's kind of what the state of where we're at with these, which like here's like game security for like cheating and stuff. Yeah, of course they're still working on new ways of going after cheaters, and like I feel like we are like it feels like almost every other week we're hearing about some kind of lawsuit Bungie is put against some kind of cheat manufacturer for like millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, they're trying. I will give them credit where credit's due. Like they are working on it.
Yeah, they're definitely working on that. Same with stability updates. Like I will say, like there's definitely that period of like the game having a pretty rough stability, but I feel like at least like
Got much better. Yeah.
I would say like in the last month at least, I feel like I've not seen the game kind of go down in a major way. So that's a definitely a good sign, I would say. And they did say briefly in this like next season there's like another they have like another bigger update, and they're doing like some kind of more testing style things to
chaos testing, I think is what
yeah, as it says, beginning to do internal chaos testings using the new code we added, and are already using that data to make more improvements for the 7.20 update, which is the season 22 update. So yeah, it seems like they're still working on stuff. So cool. So here's this next major section is more like they talk briefly about the seasonal structure stuff, because they said they're to be shifting up a lot of the seasonal stuff. They do say, however, like it's very brief here, but there's going to be a lot more of it in that showcase. So they said,
understandably,
as we mentioned back in February, we've been working behind the scenes to shake up the seasonal paradigm this year to subvert player expectations and make each season feel unique. We know our players are looking for more variety and repeatable season activities, and more than anything, we want to constantly surprise everyone with what's to come next in each season. Although we'll talk a bit more about this below, and you'll see it in action in our showcase. We're giving ourselves more freedom to stretch narratively and in gameplay systems throughout Season 22 and 23. We hope you'll enjoy to come those rides later this month. Yes, to talk, to get onto a more positive note, I am actually very much looking forward to like this, what they're going to do with like a new seasonal approach. We know there's no like vendor paradigm. What does that mean, and how we progress each week in the story, and getting upgrades or doing whatever this activity is. I'm looking forward to that. Like that kind of shakeup could be really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Before we get into our 6-month progress report of our goals for the year, we wanted to share some previews of several quality of life upgrades and, of course, sandbox updates coming in Season 22. So these are things that are going to be like kind of, they'll shift up stuff in Destiny 2 and PvE and PvE is what they said. And there's also some cool quality of life things. The first quality of life thing they shout out is cosmetic favoring. At long last, you'll be able to pin up to 100 of your favorite shaders, ornaments, and emotes to the top of your list starting in Season 22. And of course, they show like a little screenshot here of like kind of like a little pinned stars next to particular shaders or something else. So, cool. That's definitely a long requested thing, right? So that's good to hear that's finally happening. Next up, stasis aspects and fragments are finally going away from the quest. I think is just going to be no longer a thing anymore, and now you're just be able to, once you complete the campaign, it seems like it'll just kind of be like how the other ones are at Akora, and you can straight up just buy them from Elsie Bray outright with Glimmer. So you still will need to buy You still need to own Beyond Light and buy Beyond Light to get stasis, so it's not free yet. Which I know some people have been like being like, why is that just not free? But you know,
Great question.
but you know, it is what it is. You still have to buy Beyond Light, but now it is not like that obnoxious quest where you had to get different like currencies and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Take Salvation's Grip and shoot dark spikes.
Yes, it is literally just beat the Beyond Light campaign, and then you can just go buy all the aspects and fragments directly from Alcy Bray. Cool.
Yeah, I play with quite a few new players or newer players or people that didn't want to grind out all this stuff after Beyond Light. It's great news.
Yeah.
Both of them are very excited to finally be able to play the other subclass that they bought.
Yes,
So, yeah.
that's good to hear. Transmats will now be unlocks. So like shaders before them, transmats will now be stored as unlocks on your account rather than consumable items. Feel free to change the transmats at will without needing to grab copies from collections or find them in the wild. Cool. Should have been
there.
Should have been
forever.
that like a while ago, like you said, but now it's finally happening. Cool. Sure. I honestly can't even remember the last time I put a transmat on one of my ships.
I made like a strand ship. I made it all green, and I gave it the strand transmat entrance. It was fun.
Okay, nice. So then we have the Wish Ender Pursuit. So the Wish Ender quest is also being simplified, and that you do not need to get the weird discs or quest step things.
3 item inventory slots.
Yeah, and to have that to get that, and I know like some people were like bugged out and they like got stuck in there or something from what I've heard. Now it's just not going to be a thing, and now it's just a single quest by itself. You won't have to do that stuff anymore, so it's way more simplified. That's cool, especially because Wish Ender is such a good exotic. Definitely want to get that for sure. Now it'll be even easier. Next one, which I think is kind of a cool one, an interesting one. They're adding a resources tab to the collections. So this is a change they're really excited about. And says we now have a resource tabs in the collections, which now shows you all the currencies, upgrade materials, and engrams in the game, appropriately categorized with the information how to acquire it and what you can do with it. And they have like a screenshot here that shows like here's an exotic cipher, here's a nightfall cipher, treasure keys. That's like your tokens, but then there's also, they show like seasonal stuff, armor synthesis, like all kinds of the different currencies from across the game, the engrams and stuff. You can now see what they are in that tab and see how you collect them and stuff like that. So, sure.
That's actually really nice. For new players, like, what the fuck does this do?
Yeah, it has like 8 million currencies, or now they like have all these engrams or some shit. Like, what does this actually do? What can I do with these, or where can I take these? Yeah. That's cool, for sure. Next up, Iron Banner Challenge split. With Pinnacle Awards not being as big of a draw as they once were season over season since Season of the Deep began, we felt it was time to split the Pinnacle acquisition and reputation multipliers we added back in Season of the Haunted. So starting in Season 22, Iron Banner will now have 2 different stacking challenges each day. One for players who just want their reputation multiplier, which does not require using specific seasonal subclasses. Awesome. And one for players who are going to after their Pinnacle Awards, which does require using seasonal subclasses. So there you go. I like that change a lot, specifically because that always made that was definitely an outlier of like, I remember when they did Fortress, and it was because, like the bubbles were so strong in that, but it was also because it was void focused for the things, so it pretty much forced you into playing void or like stasis or whatever for those things to get those multipliers to get that. So now you don't have to do that at all. You can just kind of play it without that particular subclasses. That's cool. Fun, good stuff. Next up, we have ritual rank ups will happen immediately now. So basically, I think that means like when you hit like pretty known as Valor, Glory, Infamy. So basically, I think when you hit like certain tiers that give you rewards. At least this is how I'm reading this, where it says like when you hit certain tiers of rewards on the like track of like a vendor, they will just immediately give you those rewards from when you get them. Is that how this works?
The way I read this was like you have to stay in a thing until the summary comes up, or until you hit event completion, like in strikes and stuff. And now you can just go to orbit and activity right after that instead of having to wait for it to load. That is how I interpreted it. Because they mentioned, like, we had the full screen banner would overwrite the scoreboard if it showed up earlier, and that was back like when you got like the rank up like across the full screen. And we revamped and streamlined reputations over the past few years. We moved the rank up banner to the bottom of the screen and made them less conspicuous, but left the processing of the ranks until you hit orbit. Now we've finally taken that step to make rank up process immediately at the end of an activity. No more waiting for your rewards. So I'm not positive, but that's I think what they're talking about.
Yeah, because it says it's not waiting for your rewards. So I'm wondering if it's just like, because I know when you ranked up, you would get like an engram drop or whatever. And I guess when you have to go
but that lives on the vendor now, so you don't really have to wait for that, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious what that means.
No one knows. I've
that was
heard
definitely
like 4 different interpretations of this bullet point.
Yeah. So it does just have to be a thing, but we'll see on
maybe
when
they'll clarify
when the season starts. Well, we might see that what that actually means. But anyway, now we're on to sandbox updates, which is some
news here.
Some good.
I will say
some good news here.
Quality of life thing, and we could hear about this in the showcase, as with many things.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that needs to be addressed. Still, forever, is the buff debuff visual display. Still needs to be updated.
Yeah. Actually, you're totally right. They didn't really talk about that here.
Quality of life thing that is like expansion worthy. I do think like that is such a substantial. If they change the UI, for example, which they should to account for this, but it is a quality of life update that is very long overdue. Didn't get mentioned here, and I was a bit disappointed that it didn't.
Yeah, agreed. And that's definitely something I'll talk about once we're like kind of mostly done with this, like some overarching things that we think should have been maybe talked about, and like at least the idea of like a state of the game, or maybe this didn't necessarily feel like it should have been fully a state of the game thing.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. But yeah, sandbox updates is where we're at now in the article here. First one, we're getting more strand aspects. We
didn't know for sure, so this is nice.
Yeah, this is definitely a confirmation for sure that they're happening for sure. So we are getting the Whirling Maelstrom for Hunter, Banner of War for Titans, and Weave Walk for Warlocks. Stay tuned for more info as we get closer to the launch of the season. So I guess they'll talk about that maybe in like a weekly blog or a TWAB or something.
Yes,
coming
I
up.
don't know what happened to my camera, so I
I was gonna say just white it out real quick.
Like switch to my phone as my camera. I don't know why.
living on.
Move my phone out of the way.
Probably brought in. It has its own ideas about stuff.
Sitting on my lap, and I was like, okay.
So here's now. After that, we have Exotic Armor Rework Part 2 is coming up.
This is exciting.
So similar to our first wave exotic revamps in Season of the Deep, the team is reworking another batch of underused exotic armor pieces in Season 22 to shake things up and give players a new reason to dive into their vaults. Watch for a new Developer Insights article going live next week to cover all the changes. So that's cool. So
we'll be talking about that next week.
So we will be talking about that for sure. Real quick though, what's Shadow and Exotic right now that you would hope to be on this list? Do you have any in mind, or
update Prometheum Spurs again?
Prometheum Spurs again. All I want.
I talked a lot of shit in our Destiny group about Prometheum.
Yeah, Prometheum Spurs.
I really want to like them.
Yeah, so do it again, but better.
Do it again, but better this time. Do you have a particular one that you want to see?
I want them to make an ornament that makes Phoenix Cradle look cool. That's all I want. Even if they kept it exactly the same. But I mean, I think that one could be more interesting. Like ones that jump out to me. I think there's a couple Titan ones that are definitely just like. Yeah, I feel like they need that addition. They still need that additional like 3.0 thing. Like I'm trying to think of like I think there's like some void ones. Like I wouldn't mind if like Helm 14 got a little bit more stuff, because all it does right now is just like when you pop a bubble, it makes that bubble a little better, and I think you get like an extra buff with it or something.
Yeah. I think so.
I could
think
see
you need
that.
more over shields or something.
Yeah, like some way to give more overshields, or like when you have an overshield, you get something additional. Like, just something extra to that would be cool, I think. Or like,
Ballador's Wrathweavers, which is the new stasis
new
exotic from
stasis
Lightfall.
one, yeah.
The one that like makes your allies' stasis weapons do more damage, and gives them an overshield. Yeah, I think that one could be retooled.
Yeah.
And even like classics like Geomags should do something. It doesn't have to refill your super, but it should do something.
Yeah, just there's definitely a lot still. Can't think of every one off the top of my head. Maybe I should just pull up Dim real quick if I can see. I can shout out.
I was looking at my exotics in my vault.
Shout out real quick, but there's definitely ones I feel like there's a lot of them. It just like they don't have any kind of incorporation still into a lot of the 3.0 changes. So I feel like again that's going to be a lot of
Hunter ones that for sure fit that.
That just like, oh yeah, that'd be cool if they had extra things they just kind of did on top of that, like yeah, here's Graviton Forfeit from the Hunter helmet. It gives better invisibility effects, but it does increases duration of invisibility effects. When invisible, your melee recharges faster, your weapons reload faster, recovers greatly increased. So okay, that's still pretty. It still does have some extra effects there, but ultimately, I just thought it kind of just did like, here's some extra invisibility. So it does a little bit more than that, I guess. There's like the Precious Scars Titan helmet. I see like literally no one using ever. Yeah. Like I think they could do something more interesting with that maybe.
Think about the one new one that they had for Hunter. Is it Athrus's Embrace or Renewal Grasp? Whatever like the spinning arc staff one is that absolutely nobody
likes. That's Blight Ranger, I think.
Oh, Blight Ranger, yeah, that's right.
The helmet. Yeah, helmet. That's another one that would probably be good because I think they even did something to it and still
buffed it. Yeah,
like it didn't matter, and like they did a similar thing with like Raiden Flux, and like that was like a useless change, frankly, because it was like deactivate your super and you get like a burst of like blinding or something. But like, why would you want to like be? I forget exactly.
You get a burst of blinding with a special ammo weapon.
Yeah, right? Like yeah. It's just like there's just like a couple weird things like that where it's like, why do this?
Or the new auto rifle, you can get a burst of blinding from like a kill just with that gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's definitely a couple like that. Like I think like Doomfang Pauldrons is another one that I think is really cool, but it's really so intrinsically tied to like it really only makes the Titan like shield throwing in its super really useful, where like you now have the shield throwing melee, and it doesn't really have any synergy with that. I think that could be a cool way to like enhance that, is like incorporate some of that stuff into that. I think Icefall Mantle, I feel like they should just remove the penalty for that.
Yes.
Because like because of how many things you can get so easily overshielded from in this game across the board now with like Woven Mail, Void Overshield, like just remove the penalty from that, and like I think you would be fine. Really. There's stuff like this, so there's just plenty of things they can. I think they can still.
I'm excited to see what this looks like.
And we'll know soon. This week we'll definitely cover that probably in the next episode, for sure. And then what else we got? We got the last thing they shouted is new weapon subfamilies. Looking further into the future, we'll be introducing some entirely new weapon subfamilies with the final shape. Tune into the showcase on August 26th to get your first look at some of these in action, as well as some other unexpected additions to Destiny 2's arsenal yet to come. So that may be like another fully new weapon type. They just really teased at the end there with that last line.
We talked about it in our Lost episode last week. I really like all the new subfamilies of weapons. It's one of my favorite things anytime they put out a new one of those.
Yeah, right. Because they did talk about they're bringing back Warden's Law, and they updated it into like this more like two-shot kind of hand cannon. Yeah, I'm totally down for them to try more stuff. I did like some of those too. Like I like the 3-burst linears and stuff. Like they're really fun.
Glaive, obviously.
Yeah, Glaives, of course, coming in, and then I'd be totally down for me to try more more like unique subfamilies in some of these weapons because somebody we've used for so long. Be
Burst
cool
fire
to
assault,
cool
like auto rifle would be cool.
Yeah.
Of some kind, maybe like a 5 burst or a 10 burst or something. Like
Yeah, something interesting for sure. Weapon tuning preview. They did say they're going to be talking about, they talked about high level stuff about like, changing a lot of zoom stuff, which I think this will ultimately be a pretty massive change in this season. It's just, it's a lot of talk about it, and
we gotta feel it to know,
and it's definitely absolutely like a thing you got to feel, and depending on how that will go, they'll figure it out. So and they
could be really good, could be really bad.
Yeah, but yeah, that's largely what they say. And here's kind of the last bit they kind of go over here. It says in addition to all the kind of weapon tuning preview stuff they do talk about in here, which is like all that zoom stuff. We have a lot of things to look forward in season 22. This is not a comprehensive list, but we wanted to give you a sneak peek. Hands will see increased reload speeds and PvE damage buffs against minor and major enemies. That's pretty good. Sword full power heavy attacks will be usable with any non-zero amount of sword energy. That's pretty interesting. Sword Guard is being buffed in several areas. Touch of Mouse is getting us some tweaks we think players will enjoy, and perks such as Bipod, Envious Assassin, Under will become much more useful in Season 22. Watch for the full breakdown later this month, so I'm sure there'll be like a weapons preview like article. Probably, I guess
we'll inevitably talk about.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Well, I'm guessing that's probably not this week, or
it's probably the week after.
The week after we get the exotic stuff, because that's literally the week before we're only 3 weeks away from the showcase at this point. So, what we were talking about. After that, they largely just kind of recap a lot of the things they talked about in the state of the game when they first right before Lightfall. And admittedly, like a lot of this is just kind of recapping a lot of things. I know the big thing they talk about here, they do talk about some story stuff here. Yes. So I did want to shout out this.
Little bit more spice for me.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see where I can start here. It says, taking a step back to examine the overall narrative for the year, the team is laser focused on ensuring the connective tissue in our storytelling between seasons 20 through 23, and the final shape is a more impactful than last year's seasons were leading up to Lightfall. We're taking that feedback to heart and loading this year up with more important moments designed to capture players' imaginations and move the saga forward with each beat. We've already proven this out in Season of the Deep with the revelations of the Witness's origins, substantial lore drops throughout the season in Neomuna, and the implications of where our Guardians go from here after the final missions cutscene. We know there are some who would have preferred the experience these more story during Lightfall's campaign. With those players in mind, we believe the totality of this year's narrative will set the stage for the final shape in ways that a single story beat never could. And to put concerns to rest right now, the final shape and its raid will provide a climactic conclusion to the Light and Dark saga before we look ahead to what comes next in Destiny 2.
Okay, I do like that part. I like that. It's bolded.
Yeah, they bolded it and everything. And again, like something I want to shout out quick is like they said, look ahead to what comes next in Destiny 2. Yes. Again, reiterating that like I still see people saying like their final shape's gonna end and they're done Destiny 2. And it's like no, they're gonna keep making stuff in Destiny 2 for a while.
They're gonna try at least.
They're gonna try. Again, they said we're getting freaking what you call it, like the Gambit maps and Gambit shit late in the year of Final Shape. So like they're gonna continue making Destiny 2 stuff at least for the year of the Final Shape, leading up to maybe another expansion or like a new game or something. Like again, reiterating that again. Game's not going to truly end with a final shape. Although I know some people feel like it's going to end, and maybe that's the end for them and their own personal minds because like they got to this story beat and like they don't really care about where it goes from there or whatever. They don't like how it ends. Fine. Like whatever with that stuff. We'll have to just wait and see. But again, they're going to keep making Destiny 2 stuff after Final Shape.
Yeah, I see. I feel what they're saying here of like, hey, we didn't necessarily think that we could do all of these story threads in a single expansion, but boy, would I have loved it if they tried. That's
Yeah.
like my feeling. Like I love the Chioma Essie stuff. We did some lore updates here on the podcast that I'm a big fan of. I like going there every week. It's what I boot up Destiny for, honestly, to some extent, in some cases, a lot of times, to go just hop on Neomuna, listen to that audio log, and then I'll go like do public events or a strike or something, and I'll be done. And that's fine. I actually played through all of the Lightfall campaign on my Titan finally this week.
Nice.
That's what I did in Destiny. Finally got Strand. Strand Titan, really fun.
Yeah. Probably my favorite out of the three still, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like they were going for something, and I think they totally nailed it, of like that pull yourself into clawing somebody up, and it feels really good. But I just feel like, especially the Witness thing should have been in Lightfall, specifically of anything. And like I said in my review of Lightfall that you can go read on RussianPeasants.com, like, I just feel like the campaign kind of split itself into two things. Of one is like this fun action narrative that wasn't taking itself too seriously, even though things should have been really serious probably. And then the other is like the Strand narrative, which I think they could have done the Strand narrative as like a explore Neomuna and learn things, and then incorporate the Veil into that, and had that be way stronger, and then had more focus in the campaign to make that more strong as well. But, here we are. I don't necessarily agree that there would have been no other way to do it, but I am still into the story. I like the things that they've done, and I am excited for the final shape and the raid for sure.
Yeah. I definitely think that was good to say that, at least in here. And
Yes.
we're gonna see even more so like what some of that truly means when we get into the showcase later. This at least start getting a better feeling for it when we see that showcase in just a couple weeks.
Even like seeing Cade coming back, it gave me like the feeling of how this is a grand totality of things wrapping up.
Yeah.
And that I'm excited about, right? But I just have questions.
Yeah, still definitely a lot of stuff up in the air for sure. What's all going to be there. But another thing I wanted to point out here, because they do talk about some more stuff in these parts here. The one thing they shouted out is the exotic mission rotator. That's going to be kicking off on day 1 of Season 22, is what they said. The rotation will kick off with the return of the Presage to offer a new avenue for players to earn Dead Man's Tale, which will also be craftable for the first time. After that, Vox Obscura and Operation Seraph Shield will join the rotation, offering up prospected craftable exotic weapons and catalysts as well. So I'm guessing they're saying here that Dead Messenger will be craftable and Zero Mission will be craftable.
It seems like it.
At least that's what I get from this.
I mean, I know what's.
That's right. And they did say they go on to say in the here, like, we'll have more details about that in the weekly TWAB from this week. And I believe they did say that in the TWAB specifically. If like, let me see if I can find it quickly here.
Yeah,
I thought because they said they talked about it in the TWAB this week. Yep, to talk about close. Oh, did I click on the wrong? I clicked on the wrong one. That's probably why, I think. Or maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I don't see anything in here. Maybe it's going to come up at some point. Let's see.
Yeah, I thought they talked about it in.
We'll have more details on what else to expect from the exotic mission rotator in an upcoming This Week in Destiny.
Oh, so maybe it is not in this one. I guess we'll have to see what they say for sure. But
they also said the number 2 bullet before this was bringing challenge back to Destiny. Although we were a bit uneven on this one at the start of the year, we feel we've achieved this goal, which I also disagree with.
Yeah, I would largely say I still kind of disagree with the sentiment.
I think it's better than it was when it first started.
Yeah.
But more tweaking needs to be done.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. We'll just have to see, but I guess they don't necessarily feel that way, even though I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see what this next season feels like in some of this content. But yeah, so it's looking forward to whatever the exotic rotator though. That'd be cool. So then they skipping ahead here because they definitely they took another brief moment to recap. Like, yeah, here's all a couple things we did for PvP, whatever. And then finally, we called back out in February that we initially targeted more changes to ritual content in the final season of the year. While we've made the recent decision to push that initiative to final shape, we have plans to replace some bounties with a more rewarding and engaging system tentatively called the Pathfinder. This is going to be debuted on the new destination in the final shape, and we're currently nailing down a plan for how we can use this new system to replace core ritual bounties in the new year. For now, here's a work in progress preview of the Pathfinder UI. So basically, yeah, you just see kind of like, almost looks like a sphere grid, like skill tree kind of thing.
It is a sphere grid.
Totally kind of thing that you're building up, and it's like it looks like you're like basically completing objectives here that like lead up to like, it looks like there's like a prime engram at the end there.
Yeah. Probably your prime reward from each vendor. I like my takeaway from this was like, you can do any of these 6 challenges to start, and then you'll get access to the second tier, and you can do the one that you're connected to, or maybe do a different one. And you can do all of these, and they'll each give one reward, and then once you get to the end of the track, you'll get your bounty reward.
Yeah, you're basically just doing little mini challenges.
If it means you don't have to pick up bounties, I'm here.
That's definitely what it sounds like. And it says, yeah, and again, this gives me like a little bit more hope where like this said they had more plans to changes for the ritual content. So I guess I don't know if that clearly that means like the one aspect is like kind of how you progress the weekly kind of thing here for each vendor. But I'm hoping that also maybe means other changes to like more things for the Vanguard.
I feel like it's like the updated strikes and stuff, you know?
Yeah, updated strikes and some other things that maybe there was. But yeah, this seems it's again, we only really have this like kind of single UI screenshot to go off of, so we don't really know. But I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a lot more about it in the whatchamacallit, the showcase later this month, because it seems like it's going to be a bigger part of the final shape and part of the destination specifically too. So it's interesting that it's actually like you'll be doing some kind of this Pathfinder thing on the destination itself. I'm not sure how that'll work.
I'm excited. I love a good new UI screenshot though.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice from the start there. And then the last thing they do say like, yeah, Fireteam Finder is still coming in season 23. So we'll see those. We'll see how that goes. And then they also talked about, and in the final shape, we're making big changes to the progression system that will help connect even more players and remove barriers, keeping friends from taking on the same content together. We'll have more info on that in the showcase. And that to me is very much the like, we're taking the light. This is like truly the moment we're taking light level out of this game and replacing it with some other kind of system. And that system will be a little bit more open because you'll let you just, like they said, they'll just let you play with your friends, even if they aren't, current up to level or like some certain, at certain points or whatever, they can just kind of jump in and play stuff.
Which is good.
Agreed, for sure. And it may make more sense of a lot of the stuff we have this year with like Guardian ranks and other things and how they align with that system. And like I'm assuming it'll hopefully kind of all come together in a much better way once we're at final shape, which seems like now that's kind of the next point here for sure. Now that we're kind of getting a lot of these changes and have been waiting to get to this next part. But yeah, I think that's the blog.
That's the long and short of it.
That's the state of the game blog. That's like overall again. Like, there's definitely some like good things to take away from this. Definitely a lot of frustrating things from
frustrating realities.
Realities or things that it's frustrated about because like you said, it's the realities of like they have to, this is still a thing that needs to make money for them, and they have, obligations as this being like a live service game and stuff like that, and now they're using the money they probably make from this to make other stuff, and they got to do things a certain way, and they're just doing things a certain way, and they kind of can't really take away from that right now, at least what it feels like. And it kind of can just kind of feel demoralizing, I'm sure, for a lot of folks, especially people who are very clearly the fans of like the PvP of this game, and wanted that to maybe be more than what it is.
7 Gambit fans out there, myself included, we're all very frustrated.
Devastated. Gambit's, you had to bury. You now have to bury your friend Gambit out in the backyard.
Put the drifter in the ground.
Yeah, but this is. I'm ultimately I'm finding that they gave this like state of the game update, like overall, like it's.
Yeah.
They usually don't do like this mid-year one, so that was kind of interesting to see them say they were doing that. I think that led to a lot of the like kind of sort of weird disappointment some people had for this, for sure, because I usually when we get a state of the game, it's like right before the expansion launches, and it's more talking about like the year out, where like this was like a lot of like they already kind of told us they were kind of more just updating on things and where they're at with what they talked about earlier this year. So it wasn't really like new revelations really. And then also a lot of it was spent just like previewing things for the next season, which we usually just get in like, smaller blogs or like TWABs and stuff. So that's where it just kind of felt like weird, where like it felt like they just like kind of bunched up a bunch of things together, rather than like kind of talking about like the more like the future beyond, where I feel like this, I don't know, like ultimately I feel like this just would have been better personally in my opinion, would have been better served to have this kind of blog come out after the showcase, because I feel like they could have been a lot more open about certain things and aspects.
We might still get one after the showcase.
Yeah, we could. They definitely will probably do like more blogs and articles and things like that. And we could also just learn outright more about some of the, they can, talk about some of the stuff even more in that showcase itself. Because it definitely feels like, it's like, again, like they talk about a little bit like the Pathfinder stuff, how they're mixing up seasonal content. Like that's going to be stuff they say directly in this that they're going to talk about in the actual the showcase. So it's like, okay, cool, sure. Well, but that's all it is. Like you're just telling me to go tune into that showcase, which I was already going to go do anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's fine.
Yeah, I think like some of it also feels like a very undeserved victory lap in a weird way I think that rubs people the wrong way of like, you and me. Like the Strike playlist is in a good spot, and we're like, excuse me? Like,
yeah, hold on.
I've been playing that playlist for 6 months, and it is not in a good spot. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And the PvP stuff, obviously, Gambit is like, yeah, nobody's playing it. It's like, yeah, why do you think that is the case? Like it has that like out of touch feeling that I think when things are this tense between the community and Bungie, that just adds fuel to the fire for a lot of those kind of crazy people out there.
Yeah.
Not giving them excuses at all, for sure not. But I just don't think this helped anything. And it would have felt better if they leveled a little bit more, and it felt more like Joe Blackburn coming in and saying something versus like this kind of collaborative, almost corporate-y feeling piece that this ends up coming across as.
Yeah.
Of him coming out and being like, hey, like this is the reality of things, and it does suck, and we do want to do more, and maybe in the future we can. Something that like that would have earned a lot more goodwill, for me at least, than the kind of feeling of like, hey, we think this thing that is not doing very well is doing well, and here's the reality about this other thing that we're just not going to fix,
Yeah, and definitely things like they like just kind of did not talk about at all are addressed in things like, I know, like, I think somebody was good to point out of like they didn't really talk about new player onboarding at all in this. And I think that's still a pretty big issue with Destiny 2 as a whole. And like, that again, that could be something they talk about in Final Shape, and like it still is kind of weird to talk about because Final Shape is considered this like kind of more conclusion than it is like a jumping on point. You know what I mean? So like I'm really curious, like, how they're going to treat that. I think they did say in this somewhere, maybe I figured I glossed over it, but I think they did say there was going to be something this season that like helps people catch up with like story stuff or something in here. They didn't really get into detail about it, but I feel like there's something about that in this. And I don't know what that is, or whatever shape that is, or whatever. But yeah, that's definitely I think still a pain point, and I feel like that's also just a thing. Maybe they didn't bring it up at all because the reality is they're selling this the second expansion that ultimately is like the conclusion of this like decade-long saga. And I feel like that's not really like the best place to be like, oh, you can jump in and play right now to see this. Don't worry about the 10 years of story or whatever that we've been building up for all this time. Don't worry about that. So maybe it's just better left to just work on that stuff post this and post Final Shape, and then focus more on something like that again to get people back in, I guess. But would have been interesting to see that, like, again, a lot of people are frustrated by just, the increase of microtransaction stuff in this game. And, like, I don't think that's, like, Bungie has really never kind of talked about that stuff, other than to just tell us when they're adding stuff to, like, more stuff to buy like that. So I don't know if they'll ever be like, oh, yeah, this is why you're seeing more of that, or, this is our stance on that, and, like, why we're sticking to this kind of thing. I think some people wanted that too, but they I don't know if they really ever will address, like, quote unquote address that, if it's something they feel like they need to address, other than like, we're gonna put things in the game you buy so we can make money. Like, at the end of the day, they're a business and that's what they're gonna do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the trick is threading the needle so it doesn't always feel like that, and right now it really feels like that.
Yeah. 100%. Again, when they say they can't make a single new free like set that you can get in across the playlist, but then they can put out, like, I think they put out the Sony crossover of the Sony crossover ornament set, the new dungeon set, the course the normal seasonal and ornament set. And then there was also there wasn't a new Iron Banner or Trial set this season. There was the
Trial set next season.
Is next season,
the prized Iron Banner set. Was that last season?
I think.
Or the season before.
I think that was with Lightfall.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, when they got those.
So
then there was one more. I think there was one more set. So they did 5 like sets, and like again, all of those are in paid content. So it was like the new Solstice armor set. So like you have 5 new sets, and of course they're all like for paid events. Technically you can get the Solstice set for free if you grind out the Bright Dust. So there is, like, I guess there is that set. But like that's they still are now making those, like, giving you more things to buy a part of those seasonal events too, with like the event cards and crap. So like, I just that's again we don't want to belabor the point more, but again we brought it up already of just
doesn't
like
feel good.
It doesn't feel good. It definitely feels very skeevy, and kind of sucks that they can't afford to just put one single armor set to earn in that game we are playing. Just a single one for an entire year. Like, come on, man. Like, jeez. But anyway, yeah, that was the article. I will say briefly here as we'll wrap up here soon. It's definitely a longer episode. I did do some Grandmasters for the season. I had a good time. I did have a good time playing the game Destiny 2, regardless of what people think. I did most.
As did I.
surprisingly, we got most of them in like almost all of them done in one session. We got 4 of these 6 complete in one session, and then we're going to do the last 2 the day after we're recording this. And yeah, and I'm having
You one GM.
I mean, it's definitely worth doing them because there you got the double Nightfall rewards this week. Adept
as well.
A double rep and Adept loaded question is the weapon drop for this week. Got some good rolls of that. I got an overflow. Overflow.
Reservoir burst.
Not reservoir burst, but the other the newest perk that's like controlled burst or whatever it is.
Controlled burst. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's still pretty good. It also had Envious Assassin on it as well, so be curious what the updates to that is. I don't think I got a reservoir burst drop of it, but yeah, Overflow Reservoir does sound really good.
Yeah, one of my friends got that, and I'm very jealous. It's very cool.
That seems like a really good one. And yeah, I think the other one I got was like Auto Loading Frenzy, but I don't know if I'll probably just keep the one I have. But I'm doing the last two, which the ones I have left are Corrupted in the Psyops Moon ones. So that'll be a fun two for the there to do. But realistically though, like we did one of the harder ones, which was Lightblade. We did it on our second try. And literally all it took, funny enough, it was like we started it and like had a got into that initial room, got messed up, and then one of my clanmates just went, you know what, I'm gonna go to Invis Hunter. So he switched to Invis Hunter, and we beat it on the first try. We had who was it? It was he was Invis Hunter, I was Strand Titan, and then our third guy, I think he was an Arc Titan. I think that's what we had.
Yeah, that would be the third one to have.
And we definitely, Strand definitely, because this is the first time I think this strike has been up since as a GM since Strand has become a thing. Definitely felt the difference in that too as well. Of just being like,
I bet.
Just being like, oh hey, here the anti-barrier spawn in the boss room. Guess what? Just drop a freaking. I was just drop a whatever the suspend grenades on him, and he's just done, belted. That was fun. Definitely all the other ones were pretty easy. It was because it's Fallen Saber, Devil's Lair, and Disgrace. So it's literally all the Cosmodrome ones, and those were super easy.
Yeah.
It was definitely a thing where we did Devil's Lair, and I was a Stasis Warlock. We had Stasis Warlock. I think he was still Invis Hunter, and then we had the Arc Titan. So we didn't actually have a well Warlock. Funny enough,
Wow.
but then it was definitely just like, oh shit, we don't have a well Warlock, and then it turned out to be totally okay still, just because everything else is like we're just feel pretty strong now. So yeah, we got through it. That one was pretty easy. Yeah, Saber. I did Saber as Strand Titan, and that also became super easy. That's the thing I remember. No, and actually we had 2 Warlocks. So one of my clanmates converted me by doing a couple of these GMs because he did Arc Warlock with Vesper of Radius. And Vesper of Radius actually seems very good now because it's because he was. You have to play pretty offensive with it because what he would do is just slide into like a spawn area, drop his rift, and it would just pulse. And the pulse is like it has like a pretty decent size. It makes your rift like a little bit bigger than it normally is, and just like pulses where you're at. And like it's pretty effective because you can it'll just hit the enemies. They'll kind of get staggered by it, and then you're just like they're getting electrified. You have your arc buddy, so they're just shooting arc buddy shots into them. So you can just it's like pretty powerful crowd control tool now. And on top of that, you can use that with like mods like the Dynamo mods where you like cast your rift near a bunch of enemies as they come in. They're getting fucked up by the burst. You're getting super. Because of that, from dynamos and stuff, and you can make orbs from other like Reaper mods and stuff. So yeah, I saw him use it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is good. This is low key good." And I was like, "Okay, I want to see it." Solid action. Solid action. It's. I wouldn't say it's like it's meta. I wouldn't say like meta, but it definitely seemed like it was viable. At least like
situationally very good.
He seemed to use it to a pretty good effect in those couple GMs we did where he used it. So I definitely after that made a Vesper build. And I was like, okay, I'll try this in the future. See what's up with it. It seemed fun too because it's just again you're just like using your Rift in like a more offensive manner, and he's getting it pretty fast because of how you can use it that way. So yeah, I'm down to try it, mix it up. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Again, always forget like double rewards. It's like holy shit, there's actually a lot of stuff you get from these because it's like double exotics, 2 drops of the adepts every time, and all kinds of like shards and the ciphers and stuff as well. You get a ton of those. So I was like, I got a couple extra rolls because of that. So that was a good time. I enjoyed that. And we'll knock out those last 2 hopefully soon. That'll be my Conqueror done, and I'll probably leave it there for my Guardian ranking. I'll live at a 10 from here on. I can live with that until they either
11 once.
Yeah, I got the 11 once. That was fine. If they give us like maybe like some solo operative kind of mods or adjust some of those last Guardian rank 11 things in the future, maybe I'll go for it again. But for now, I'm content just sticking to getting my Conqueror gilded stuff and leave it there.
Yeah, I just wrapped up Lightfall on the Titan, got Strand unlocked,
nice.
Checked the box, had a
Check
good time.
The box.
Playing that campaign on normal difficulty, very chill.
Yeah, very chill.
Extremely chill time.
Brisk run through, very, very nice.
Through that, I should also say, I finally got the Graviton Lance Catalyst. We did it.
Nice.
We did it. Took forever. God, I hate cosmology kills. That's so stupid. I'm glad I don't ever have to do that.
Yeah. At least Graviton's like so busted now. Like you can just murder with that stuff. That was like the only other thing about because we did it because it was like Arkenstrand. So I was I don't think like the Nightfalls that would have been fun to do it with the Void because I definitely would have pulled that thing out and just been like, yep, just gonna murder everything like this. And just clean up. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this week. Destiny of our Destiny podcast here on Helm to Tower.
We put on our critic hats.
We had definitely a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff still in flux with Destiny, and but ultimately, again, like I said, I'm still stoked for the showcase. I still want to see what they're going to show. Definitely still more to talk about in the coming weeks. We know we're getting more exotic armor updates, which we'll talk about next episode whenever that blog drops. So excited to see what other exotic armor we can call meta.
Look for the title.
That's
for next
right.
Gwynson
Vest actually meta ? Because it's
Vest meta.
It's gonna happen, I believe. Kepri's horn meta. Yeah, that's where I believe. Apothos Veil meta. Here it is.
No, it's not. Apothos Veil will never be meta.
You'll eat those words when we get this blog, Auri.
I hope so.
But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll be back with another episode talking about that, and then we'll be talking about whatever else in the future. And then, of course, when the August 22nd, we'll be live reacting to that showcase. So yeah, fun stuff to look forward to. And the world of Destiny, as always. But yeah, again, that was Helm to Tower podcast for this week. Thanks, everybody, for watching here on YouTube or listening to us on podcast services. We always appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.